Styles.
And a good morning to you. Welcome to the show. The Back Nine Boys Golf Show is brought to you each week by Mizuno Golf, by Sea Palms Resort, by Club Car, by RSM, and by Bridgestone Golf. On the show today, we're going to talk with Miller McKetcher and the GSGA rules about some events in the new year that are coming up, including a lot of women's events and the Jones Cup at Ocean Forest going on now. Then we'll talk with sports psychologist Dr. Greg Steinberg of Mental Rules about how important it is to think or basically not think during your golf swing and how to get out of that funk during your round. Then we'll talk with the CEO of Global Golf Post, Jim Nugent, about the future of the PGA show in Orlando, even more so the PGA Tour's upcoming battle, which seems like it's already starting in a big way with some of the news allegedly about Bryson and a $130 million contract and Phil's comments about, I want to play wherever I want. But first up, we're going to talk with Miller McKetcher of the GSGA. Good morning, Miller, and welcome to the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.
Thanks, Rich.
Glad you're with us. So first off, you're out at Ocean Forest. Tell us a little bit what's going on in the Jones Cup.
Had a great field this year. Ocean Forest is an amazing host to the Jones Cup and some really good players. It's been fun to watch. Yesterday was a good day of weather, so there was some good scoring. The wind's going to pick up this weekend, so there'll be a true test this weekend. We'll see who comes out on top.
Isn't it amazing sometimes that everybody loves to play in great weather, but the people who watch the tournament, members who belong at Ocean Forest, they want to see what these kids are going to, play their course when the conditions are not so good.
Yes, sir, and that's going to happen this weekend. We got winds coming out of the north today. It switched. It was out of the south yesterday, so it'll be a different test. A lot of those holes playing downwind yesterday will be into the face today, so it'll be interesting to see how they score today. A few of them went low yesterday. So
yeah, well, it's going to always go well when the weather's good. We'll just see what happens this weekend. We'll find out more about that next week. But first off, tell us about some of the big events that are coming up for the GSGA this year.
We're excited for another awesome season. We have registration open. We're actually kicking off the season at Sea Island for the Mixed Team Championship. But we're excited also about our inaugural Women's Floorball Championship at Echelon Golf Club. That's going to be June 1 and 2, and we're just excited about being able to add that to our calendar this year. Our state amateur, our women's state amateurs at TPC Sugarloaf this year, June 27th to 29th, and then our men's state amateurs at the Atlantic Club Deer Creek, July 7th through 10th. So we'll be back down the coast, and we're excited for that one, as well as our match play championships. Our women's match play at Old Sco Farm, July 31st through August 3rd, and our match play championship at Macklemore, July 31st through August 3rd. So we'll do a little mountain weekend up at Old Sco and Macklemore for the match play championship.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of great things about Macklemore. I've seen the pictures. I've not played it, but pretty special venue.
Yes, sir. We've made some switches this year. We're moving to pod play. Last year we had 32 players. This year we're going to have 64 players that qualify throughout the state, a handful of exemptions, and those players will come up and play at least 3 matches of match play and move on to the round of 16 if you come out of your pod.
All right, so one of the questions that I know a lot of people have asked me about the GSGA is all these tournaments coming up. How do you qualify? How do you get in? What do you have to do?
For our mid-amateur championship, our amateur championship, our junior championship, and the match play championship, we have qualifiers all throughout the state. Many different regions and many different opportunities for courses, and just gsga.org under the play button. We've got our calendar of events there. Select one of those qualifiers, and if you're the low player out of there, depending on the size of the field, the amount of spots we have, but qualify through there and get to the championship.
So, Miller, as far as, let's say somebody with a 5 or 6 or 8 handicap wants to go play, what do you think it takes to get into one of these tournaments? To play, depending upon how many people obviously go in to try and qualify. Does it take like 4 or 5 under par? Does it take like even par?
Oh, no, it doesn't take 4 or 5 under. The state amateur is open to every age group we have for the men, and it definitely is a little tougher to qualify for the state am, but for the mid am, junior match play. We do have a 10 handicap index cutoff, but
Okay.
I'm a 5 myself, and I like to try to qualify. So, all it takes is one good day, and then you're on to the championship.
Well, that's good to know. Give the website again, Miller, so our listeners can go to it. And if they aren't a member, they can join real easy by just going to the website.
Yes, sir. Everything's at gsga.org. Under the play button, you'll find our competitions calendar for the year. And under the membership button, you can join or renew your membership there. And it's just a few simple clicks, and you'll be a GSGA member.
All right. Well, I just joined. I joined a few months ago, and after talking to Matt and Miller, thank you for being with us. Have a great day, and good luck in this sketchy weather for the Jones Cup.
Yes, sir. Well, we'll hope to see you on the course in 2022.
I hope so, too. Thanks, Miller. Next up, we're going to talk with Dr. Greg Steinberg of Mental Rules. We're going to ask him a bunch of questions about how do we get out of some funks when we're not playing so well, and a lot of those other questions that we have sometimes during our round. But we'll be back after a couple of brief messages on the Back Nine Boys Golf Show. Thank you for being with us.
Hi, this is Davis Love III, and you're listening to the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.
And welcome back. Our next guest is Dr. Greg Steinberg, who's been called the best performance psychologist by Golf Digest. Good morning, Dr. Greg, and welcome to the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.
Well, thanks for having me. It's definitely a privilege to be on your show this morning.
Well, I am glad that you are here. And one of the questions, I mean, I've got many, because we all know what happens in between those 6 inches when we play golf. But tell us about what you call the secret to success.
Well, I think a lot of people get it wrong. We call it mental toughness. Everybody says, well, we got to work on our mental toughness. I don't believe that's true. I think you got to work on your emotional toughness. I think when you master your emotions on the golf course or in the world, you master your success, because really it's all about emotions. If you think about it, you could have the right thoughts, you could be confident, but if you're really nervous, which is an emotion, you're going to choke. So to me, when I work with players, and the players that are most successful, they have mastered their emotions under pressure. And so when people say mental toughness, I think, yes, your thinking affects your emotions, but really you have to get your emotions under control if you want to play your best golf.
So when you say emotions, I mean, mentally tough, okay, we know we need to hit a 3-wood on this particular shot. We need to draw it or fade it, whatever we can do. But when you say emotional, so if we're up there and we're tight and we're going, man, I really need this. I mean, is that an emotional reaction, or is that a lack of mental toughness at that point?
Well, definitely your thoughts will affect your emotions. But if you have a bad habit, such as, a lot of people get, let's say, first tee jitters, that has become an emotional habit. And what you got to do is you have to fix those bad emotions to play your best. And you can do that through things like meditation. You could do that with, having, in a proper pre-shot routine that allows you to, be reactive and have rhythm. And the idea is that, yes, you want to have the right mental state, but the ultimate goal is having the right emotional state to play your best golf.
And when you work with golfers, let's just say some amateurs, we know the pros because, this is their business. They've really got to get serious about every aspect. But from an amateur standpoint, maybe we don't know the difference between emotional and mental toughness.
Well, the idea is that when you're on the course, this is the question I ask all the players, whether they're beginners or whether they're pros. I say, when you're playing your best golf, what are you thinking and what are you feeling? And they'll tell me, well, I have a high intensity level, but I'm calm, I'm confident, and I feel joyful. So let's say they say all those things when they're playing their best. And then I say, when you're playing your worst, what are you thinking and feeling? And they might say, my intensity level is low. I'm not confident. I'm nervous. Things are rushing in my mind. Well, the idea, everything's related, the mind,
right,
the thinking and the feeling. And so the idea is, once we figure out what direction that person needs to go, that's the direction we go. Because what I believe in, the key to sports psychology is everybody is unique and everybody is their own model. What works for me might not work for you, or it might not work for Tiger Woods or, Justin Thomas. The idea is you got to figure out what works for you and then move in that direction. So you got to figure out what thoughts and emotions click for you. And then we move in that direction for you to play your best golf under pressure.
Okay, we're going through a round and we've had 4 or 5, pars. We're hitting it pretty good. We're, confident. We're not tense at all. And then all of a sudden, our game goes awry. We have 2 or 3 double bogeys right in a row. How do we get back? In other words, out of our funk, out of this bad mental, emotional state, and get back to what we need to do and what we were doing for those first 5 holes?
Well, the basic answer to that is the biggest problem that all golfers have is they have an expectation to shoot a certain score.
Right.
And so when they have a score in their mind, then when they're not playing at that score, they get frustrated, which is the emotions again, or they get mad. And so you have to get the score out of your mind. You have to basically stop thinking about, oh, I'm 4 over now, I'm 5 over. You have to basically be in the process. Everybody says one shot at a time, but ultimately that's it. It's if Nick Saban for the great coach from the University of Alabama calls it the process. And it was really about playing every play with the highest intensity. That's really what golf's all about. It's basically hitting every shot with the high intensity and not thinking about the outcome, being totally involved in the process. That's one answer. Another answer that I work with a lot of golfers that I think is really helpful is having a post-shot routine. And in a post-shot routine, I say you got 3 seconds to figure out what you did wrong. So after you hit a bad shot, you got 3 seconds to figure out what you did. Let's say I got quick at the top. Then you take that practice swing with the fix, and then you see the ball go where you want, and then you just tell yourself next shot. Because what happens a lot of times is when you have one bad hole, it's negative baggage. It comes to the next hole and the next hole because they don't have a
Right.
system to let go of the negative baggage.
Right.
Need a system to let go of that negative baggage.
And part of that is you go through your post-shot routine, as you say, is, okay, go through it, figure it out, and then start on the next hole, which means you need a short memory.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Everybody says what's great. The key to happiness is having a short memory, which is pretty true. It's learning from your mistake and then moving on. I mean, that's really the goal that you can achieve. The other thing is golf is hard. We all know golf is very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And when you think you have to be perfect, you're going to get mad. You're going to get frustrated, knowing you're going to make mistakes. I know Ben Hogan said he was expecting to hit 5 bad shots around. That's Ben Hogan. You should be expecting to hit a little bit more than 5 bad shots. And when they happen, you just learn from those and move on and, enjoy the process. I know it seems simple, but ultimately that's the goal.
Yeah. Well, tell us about your book, Mental Health. That's probably a better name. Mental Rules for Golf. Sorry about that.
Well, I wrote it 15 years ago. It has short stories. It's really about developing, confidence, concentration, motivation, all the keys. But the main key, I think, with being successful in golf is self-awareness. And, once you know what makes you play your best, then you can move in the right direction. So it's based on, some key principles of mental toughness and emotional toughness that I teach. I teach sports psychology at Austin Peay, which I've been doing that for 25 years. So I used a lot of those lectures. But what I did was, of late, because I know a lot of people don't like to read books as much as, do stuff online. So I flipped that onto an online golf psychology course for the International Golf Psychology Association at masteringgolfpsychology.com. And a lot of people can read a lot of free articles there.
Well, that would definitely help. You have worked, though, with a lot of professional golfers. And let's just say for Brandt Snedeker, who's had several coaches, he's had a lot of ups and downs, hasn't had a win in a while. How would you work with a pro that's won on the PGA Tour but hasn't won for quite a while and has been changing coaches?
Yeah, that's I know Brandt has been changing coaches. He's trying to find the key ingredient. I think what happens with a lot of these guys, and it's not just Brandt, they get into a slump,
Mm-hmm.
and they're searching. I don't know what the exact answer is for Brandt, but and what the answer is for a lot of these guys. But I think the key is, again, it goes back to you. You are your best model. Brandt needs to go back to, maybe when he was in college at Vanderbilt, when he won 10 tournaments. When I worked with the team at Vanderbilt, he won 10 tournaments in college. I mean, he was just on fire.
Yeah.
He has to go back to kind of figure out what that magic sauce was back then. And when he won the FedEx, he needs to know, go back to the magic then. He needs to find that secret sauce he had back then, not search necessarily what he's searching for in the future, but go back, because whatever was working was really working for him. And I think, a lot of pros say that, when I go back to when I was, younger and enjoying it and playing my best, not worrying about, keeping my card or the money, I started playing a lot better. And it's because that, it was kind of like that was the magic sauce for them.
Yeah, that's kind of like Jordan Spieth has been going through a lot of changes, and everybody's been saying, what's wrong with him? Well, he started trying to improve what was a good swing, a great swing, and he had a lot of wins, and now it just seems like it's in his head, what am I doing wrong? And he keeps trying to change.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys, with Bryson, they're trying to find more distance, and then they ruin their swing that way. If it's working, it's working. Don't fix what was working. And we know with Jordan, he hurt his wrist, so that was a problem. He lost confidence. And you can see it took a couple years, but he's building it back, and he's almost there. But again, if I was working with Jordan, it would be like, what was the magic sauce you had when you were, 15, when you're winning all those junior tournaments?
Yeah.
I think finding that inner golfer that was really just playing his best and not worrying so much about expectations from others. I think he would go back to the old Jordan. I think a lot of these guys, and a perfect example is Jordan Spieth. They started, becoming a superstar. So then the expectations are so high.
Right.
He believes in those.
Right.
And then the pressure becomes so great. It's hard. Tiger did it, but it's really hard for a human to handle all those expectations.
Yeah. I mean, you can't go out with expectations to shoot a certain score. I've learned that because I used to do that. And now you have to go out, at least from what I've evaluated about my own game, you have to go out with an intent to get your hips through. I mean, get your mind right. I mean, swing through the ball and those kind of thoughts rather than, gosh, if I double bogey this hole or I don't get out of the sand, I mean, my expectations are gone.
Well, it's fun to keep a score. I mean, everybody wants to keep a score, but
Sure.
The idea is that if you become a real good golfer and you're usually shooting, let's say, around par, it puts a lot of pressure on you to shoot par, especially if you're, an amateur and you don't practice every day and, you can't play every day. And then you still have those expectations because you typically shoot around par.
Right.
Well, the problem is then you go out there and you have so much pressure and then you get frustrated. You don't realize instead of, what I call the best players turn pressure into pleasure because they, enjoy the pressure. They have turned their pleasure into pressure. And then, they get all mad and frustrated and, they play even worse.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, give us your website again, Dr. Greg. I'm sure our listeners will want to go to it. I'm definitely going to go to it after this.
Well, the online course is at masteringgolfpsychology.com, and there's a bunch of free articles. You can go to a sample section, the confidence section, see a bunch of free videos and articles, and actually get an ebook on the mental game.
Well, we appreciate your time. Thank you for being with us. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
All right. Thank you. It's definitely been my pleasure.
All right. Dr. Greg Steinberg, sports psychologist. Go to his website, find out some more, and try and enjoy the process. Next up, good friend, regular guest, Jim Nugent, Global Golf Post, coming up next on the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.
Hi, I'm Dottie Pepper with CBS Sports, and you are listening to the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.
And welcome back. I'm Rich Stiles. We're glad you're with us. Our next guest, good friend Jim Nugent, CEO of Global Golf Posts. Good morning, Jim. How are you?
Good morning, Rich. Thanks for having me on today.
It is a pleasure. Great seeing you last week at the unusual PGA show. What were your reactions? What's your takeaway?
I think that people went into the show with such low expectations that ultimately their expectations were exceeded. I think the PGA of America deserves credit for shrinking the floor size and dressing it up nicely such that there felt like there was a good vibe, but a lot of energy in the room. And so I thought for what it was, and it was nothing like it's been ever before, it was a successful week for those who invested their time to come.
Yeah, I actually found, as far as what I go down there for to do some interviews, that people really had more time and we had more in-depth interviews than when it was like it was before, so crowded with people there and so many booths. They really didn't have enough time to really give you a good interview.
I think one of the learnings of last week is that big isn't necessarily better. Shrinking it a little bit in terms of attendees and square footage might be the future of the PGA Merchandise Show going forward.
So that's one of your suggestions, I would assume, to shrink the booths, not make it as big. And do you see still a future for the PGA show? I know there's been a lot on social media, like it's dead. I mean, they should stop doing this. They should cut it to, a demo day and 2 days of a show instead of 3.
I think the future of the show is safe. Really, it hinges on two companies, Callaway and Acushnet Golf. Acushnet being the parent of Titleist and FootJoy, and both have indicated that this is a one-off. They'll be back next year. They probably won't be back in as big a way as they once were, but they'll be back and they'll bring everyone back with them that chose to sit on the sidelines this year. I think the future of the show is safe, and I think that the PGA of America is looking for ways to freshen it up and make it more meaningful for the industry.
Did it bother you that some of the major folks, I mean, basically the club manufacturers weren't there?
No, it didn't, because I know the reasoning. I'll give you an example. Acushnet Golf, again, the parent of Titleist and FootJoy, their employees are not back to work in their office. How can the CEO of the company tell their employees, you can't come to work, but I need you to get on a plane and convene in Orlando, Florida, where most of their work is done in small conference rooms with 200 people packed shoulder to shoulder?
Right.
That would have been irresponsible. And so it was a one-off decision brought on by the variant, brought on by COVID. Hopefully we're on the other side of that sometime this year, and next January, I think things will start to resume what they once were, but I don't think it'll ever be the same as it was.
Yeah. Fortunately, there's a lot of things in this world that will not be the same as it was. But all right, there was one thing that I saw it, but I didn't take enough time to go to it. But this pub at the show that people were looking at where they could actually buy for their home or their golf course.
I didn't see that either. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to there.
It was a pub thing where you could set it up, and it was
the
called
pub. Yeah. It's an Irish pub there that was the talk of the show. It was it was a tiny halfway house type thing.
Yeah.
And just because it was the week that it was, that was the star of the show. You could buy this thing and you could take it home. You could take it to your golf course. It was like a kid's clubhouse. It was about that big, but everybody was quite amused by that, and they were serving adult beverages from it all week long.
Yeah, and even the price tag of $80,000, I understand through some folks that I talked with that they sold several there at the PGA show.
I wouldn't doubt that in the least.
Yeah. Well, anyway, adult beverages are always good on a golf course. All right, let's change the subject from the PGA show to the Saudi tournament. 21 of the top 50 pros are there. The tour said, and you and I have talked about it, they changed their kind of directive and said, okay, you can play, but you've got to play at Pebble Beach 2 out of the next 3 years. Your thoughts?
I think the tour did the right thing. This is a one-off. It's now part of the Asian tour. It wasn't worth taking on a fight with a one-off tournament when there's a bigger fight in store down the road, and that's between the PGA Tour and the Saudi Startup League. If there's going to be a battle, if you're going to go to court, you want to go in and fight the main event. You don't want to fight some undercard event. And so I think Jay Monahan and Keith Pelley smartly realized that, released the players to play in this. There's a bigger battle coming sometime this year is my expectation.
Yeah. Why do some of the pros, Jim, it seems like some of them do not like playing Pebble Beach? Is it because of the amount of play that it gets, because the weather is so iffy at times, the greens are small? I've heard a lot of players talk about it's bumpy, but some of them just don't put it on their schedule.
It's a combination of factors. More often than not, the weather's terrible. The golf course is not in U.S. Open shape. It's soft, it's wet, it's bumpy. And also because of the Pro-Am format, you're talking about 6-hour rounds of golf. And you put all those factors in a drink, and the pros decide that they just don't want to drink it. There's just too many better opportunities on golf courses where the ground is firm and the rounds aren't 6 hours to play at this time of year. And so they take a pass.
Yeah. But jumping back just a second, because the thought just came to me. When I was down at the PGA show, a lot of folks were saying, it's been now 2 years since some of these major club manufacturers have been at the show. Next year, it'll be 3. But, why would they go spend, and we talked about them taking smaller booths, all this money when business is up and you've still got some restrictions where their offices are not open? I mean, that is another big factor. They've got good business without having to spend all that money.
A very valid question. I have a very good friend in the industry who has a very successful men's apparel company on the West Coast. He's had his 2 best years in 2020 and 2021. And he said to me in the middle of 2021, as he was planning, why should I put a 6-figure number back in my budget when I've had these 2 great years and I didn't have a PGA show?
Yeah.
It's a very, very valid question, and it's a difficult question to get your arms around.
Yeah. Do you think that possibly looking at another time of the year would be better for the PGA show than January? Because a lot of the offers and the deals have been made in October, November.
No, I happen to think January is the right time of year. It's a slow time. It's the beginning of a new year. I would not be in favor of a different time of year.
Yeah, I've just heard a lot of talk about maybe they need to change the date. But all right, let's jump back to Saudi golf, the battle that will probably go on, and we'll just have to see where it's going to go. But do you think that Saudi golf has gained any ground on the PGA Tour players of any kind?
I don't, because this is the week that they would have used as a coming out party to announce that player A and player B and player C have signed up. And none of that's happened. I think that the Saudis are finding this to be much more difficult than they ever imagined. They don't have any players. They don't have any golf courses. They don't have any television partners. And they're supposed to start, they were supposed to start in March. Now I'm hearing June. I think this has proven to be a far bigger mountain for them to climb than they ever imagined. And they're also finding that money is maybe not the only thing that gets the attention of the American golf pros.
Yeah, there was an alleged offer in social media to Bryson of $130 million. And so everybody's comparing to that offer to what Tiger made on the tour. But Bryson denied that there was really an official offer.
There have been rumors about lots of players and lots of dollar figures. And you just, until somebody signs and somebody says something firm, it's all meaningless. It's in my estimation, it's a solution in search of a problem. And I don't think that there's a proven problem with the format offered by the PGA Tour at this moment in time.
What do you think about Phil's comments, kind of like I don't want anybody telling me where I can play and can't play and, da-da-da, when he's made so much money over the last 30 years from the PGA Tour.
Well, I think Phil crossed the line this week. He called the organization that helped him win $100 million over his career greedy.
Yeah.
That just doesn't add up. But I don't think it really matters anymore because Phil's 51 years old and nobody's telling him where he's going to play or not play. He isn't going to be playing much on the PGA Tour because he doesn't have enough game any longer to play out there. And he can play wherever he wants on the Champions Tour whenever he wants.
Yeah.
I think he was off base and increasingly moving over to the irrelevant side of the equation.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I think he called the tour greedy. I think he may be the one who may be greedy. But anyway, we got to take a quick break, Jim. We'll be right back with Jim Nugent, Global Golf Post, on the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.
Hi, I'm Dr. Bob Jones IV. I'm the grandson of Bobby Jones, a clinical sports psychologist, and you're listening to the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.
Welcome back. I'm Rich Stiles. We're on the phone with Jim Nugent, good friend, who's always looking very dapper when I see him at the PGA show. And Jim, we've talked a little bit about Saudi golf and all this stuff that's going on, but what is going on with Rory McIlroy?
Boy, if I knew that, I'd call Rory and I'd be
and let him know. Yeah.
Yeah. He's just such a hard one to grapple with. There's such innate talent there, such God-given talent, and he wants it so badly that sometimes I think he just makes either bad judgments or bad swings or both at the wrong time. Everybody's pulling for Rory. Everybody wants to see him win at Augusta and finish the career Grand Slam. But sometimes he just can't seem to get out of his own way, and it makes all of us who are Rory fans, and I'm an unabashed one, scratch your head and wonder what's going through his mind.
Yeah, I know, Phil. I mean, for many years, they always say, the only person that's going to ruin Phil's chances of winning is going to be Phil because of some of the shots that he tries. And, Rory may be in that same boat. And I thought earlier this year, he kind of said, I just need to get out of my own way and just relax and play this game and enjoy it more.
I think that's true. You could look at the bright side, though, and say that he's got 2 outings and he's got 2 really good finishes. He didn't win, but he was right there in contention. So maybe it's just early in the year and this bodes well. But those of us that have been watching him for a long time we're holding our breath.
Well, Hudson Swafford and Luke List held their breath and held on to get some really big wins for them for their career over the last couple of weeks. I mean, they've both got to be just unbelievably excited. Hudson, I wasn't even watching him, and all of a sudden, here he is up at the top of that tournament.
Yeah, the tour is not exactly put its brand names out there at the top of the leaderboard the last couple of weeks, but the fields have been weak as well. But good stories, both of them. Nice to see Hudson get another win. Nice to see Luke List break through. These are true journeymen on the PGA Tour, and it's nice to see that every once in a while a journeyman can cash a check and hold a trophy.
What are your thoughts, Jim? We see all these ratings and how many people are watching golf tournaments, and the Hawaii and the California are always at prime time. They don't get a lot of listeners. That's somewhat disappointing, I guess, for the sponsors, but we do know the listeners are their customers because they play golf and they're watching golf, but the ratings have not been that good. Do you think that's going to have any kind of effect in the future as far as sponsorships and for the PGA Tour?
No, excuse me, I don't, because I don't think they're terribly out of line with history. This is the United States of America, and in the United States of America, no sport begins until the Super Bowl is over, and every sport comes to an end the day in September when the first football is kicked in the air. This is a football country, and right now we're in the playoffs, and we got the Super Bowl ahead of us. People aren't going to pay attention to golf or anything else really until after the Super Bowl's over.
Yeah, and a lot of people, honestly, that I've talked with really think the golf season starts at the Masters.
For most average golfers, that's absolutely true. Even though the Players has moved back to March, and that's a big and important tournament with a great field on a great golf course. For most Americans, particularly in the northern parts of the country where you're in the dead winter through much of March, the Masters signals the start of the golf season. You can get out, you can play a little bit, you can watch it on TV. So for average golfers, that's true. For serious golfers, not so much, but still, football dominates the airwaves at this time of year.
Yeah, I think, I saw Harris English the other day in the locker room, and he's obviously not at Pebble Beach, but he's getting ready to leave, I think probably tomorrow or Monday for Tucson or for Phoenix for the big tournament out there, which that tournament big is the hole at 16.
Yeah, that's a tournament that's taken on a life of its own. It's the one tournament that does reasonably well against football because they set it to finish right before the kickoff. You've got that 16th hole antics going on all week long, but especially on the weekend. So that's a tournament that's found its own way. It does pretty well and raises just a boatload of money for charity.
Oh my gosh. Time. Yeah. I mean, it's 300,000-400,000, maybe even more. But Jim, I thank you for being with us. Pleasure seeing you a couple of weeks ago at the show, and I hope you have a good day.
Thanks for having me on. Cheers.
Jim Nugent, Global Golf Post. Want to thank him for being with us, along with Millam Ketchum of the Georgia State Golf Association, talking about the Jones Cup, and Dr. Greg Steinberg of Mental Rules, talking about his book and how we need to be more emotionally involved in our golf game. Hey, listen to the Back Nine Boys Golf Show every Saturday and Sunday right here on ESPNCoastal.com or wherever you catch golf podcasts. Listen to it. We'll see you next week on the Back Nine Boys Golf Show.